And we're going way beyond just like the basic Bitcoin stuff that everybody's already heard a million times. We're going to be talking about a whole ecosystem of layer one networks.
Imagine a world where countries are thinking about using Bitcoin as part of their financial reserve. Challenge the dominance of the US dollar.
Let's start with Ethereum. Why should I care about that?
Well, for one thing, it's attracting some major players.
Okay.
Like Google, IBM, Boeing.
Really?
They're all part of Hedera's governing council.
All right. Ready to dive into the future of crypto?
Let's do it.
We've got this pretty in-depth report here looking at where the industry could be headed over the next 10 years.
Yeah.
And we're going way beyond just like the basic Bitcoin stuff that everybody's already heard a million times. We're going to be talking about a whole ecosystem of layer one networks, which is pretty exciting.
What's fascinating is that the report, it doesn't just like hype everything up.
Yeah.
You know, it actually dives into the potential impact these different networks could have.
Yeah, that's what makes this deep dive perfect for, anyone listening who wants to get a more complete picture.
Exactly.
And what it could mean, for their own lives, whether it's like thinking about finances or even their careers.
I think it's almost like we're looking at like the building blocks for a new type of internet, like one that's totally decentralized. Could totally change how we interact online.
For sure. Okay, so I think a good place to start is with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the granddaddy of crypto, right?
Sure.
I mean, everybody's at least heard of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But this report is suggesting it's about to become way more than just digital gold, which is what some people call it.
It's becoming a hedge against inflation, like a real safeguard against economic instability. I mean, imagine a world where countries are thinking about using Bitcoin as part of their financial reserve.
Seriously, alongside actual traditional systems.
Yeah.
Whoa, that's a wild thought. I mean, what would that even, like, what kind of impact would that have on the global economy?
Well, it could mean like a huge shift in the balance of power.
Right.
Like moving away from centralized control to a more decentralized system.
Totally.
If Bitcoin actually became a major reserve asset, it could like challenge the dominance of the US dollar.
Oh, wow.
And that could, completely reshape global trade.
Okay, so this isn't just like holding on to Bitcoin hoping it goes up in value. This is a whole different thing. We're talking about how the world's finances work, like fundamentally changing.
Yeah. And it's all happening alongside these huge technological advances. Like the report highlights the Lightning Network. You familiar with that?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
It's making Bitcoin transactions faster, cheaper, way more practical for everyday use.
Yeah, because I feel like that's always been one of the criticisms of Bitcoin.
Right.
That it's too slow and too expensive.
Exactly.
They're addressing that.
Exactly. It's like they're building a superhighway on top of the existing Bitcoin network.
Okay, so that's interesting. So then what are these layer one networks all about? I mean, are they like Bitcoin competitors or are they something totally different?
Think of them like parallel universes, each with its own set of rules and capabilities.
Okay.
So Bitcoin was the first, but these layer one networks are building on top of that foundation. They're really expanding what blockchain technology can do.
Got it. So Bitcoin is like the foundation, and these other networks are kind of building on top of it, each with its own like focus.
Right.
Okay. Before we dive into those, there's something else I gotta bring up about Bitcoin, the whole sustainability question.
Oh yeah, the environmental impact.
Yeah.
The Bitcoin mining, right?
That's a valid concern.
Totally, and the report actually acknowledges that.
Oh, good.
But it also talks about a big shift happening right now in the industry, a move toward renewable energy sources for mining, like solar, wind power.
Oh, so it's like they're realizing that to really be successful, Bitcoin needs to be environmentally responsible.
Exactly.
But like, what does that mean for someone like me or like, our listener?
Right.
Like, does it affect how we use Bitcoin or how we think about investing in it?
It's definitely a factor to think about,
Right, yeah.
You could look into like the sustainability practices of different mining companies. You can even support the ones that are, actively investing in renewable energy. And there's new projects coming up all the time focusing on more energy efficient mining technologies.
Right.
Which could help lower the environmental impact even more.
Got it. So it's not like a black and white issue.
Right.
There's nuance. It's changing quickly.
It's evolving.
Okay. I'm sure we'll keep seeing advancements in this area as the industry grows up.
Yeah.
But I think for now it's time to take a closer look at some of these other layer one networks.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Are you ready to dive in?
Absolutely. This is where it gets really interesting. We'll explore a few of the major players, each with its own strengths and its own potential to change things up in different industries.
Awesome. Let's start with Ethereum. It's probably the most well-known after Bitcoin.
Yeah, definitely.
What makes it stand out? Why should anyone listening care about this?
Ethereum was actually the first one to use this concept of smart contracts.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Which are basically self-executing agreements written in code.
Okay.
And this opened up a whole new world of possibilities for decentralized applications.
Okay.
Everything from financial tools to games to, even digital art.
So when people are talking about DeFi, like decentralized finance or NFTs, that all starts with Ethereum.
It all starts there, yeah.
But I've also heard that Ethereum has some limitations.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to scaling.
You're right. As more and more people start using the network, it can get really congested.
Yeah.
Leading to slower transactions. And of course, higher fees.
Right.
Think of it like a highway during rush hour.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody's going anywhere.
Yeah.
But the report does highlight some interesting solutions in development, like sharding. Have you heard of that?
I've heard of sharding, but I don't really understand.
Imagine you take a big database and you divide it into smaller pieces. We call those shards. Each shard can actually process transactions independently, allowing the network as a whole to handle a lot more activity.
Okay.
It's like we're adding more lanes to that highway.
Yeah.
Right. So the traffic can flow more smoothly.
Got it. So they're basically making the network more efficient by breaking it down.
Exactly.
Okay. What about these layer 2 networks? How do they fit into all this?
Think of those as like express lanes.
Oh, okay.
Built on top of the Ethereum highway.
Got it.
So they handle transactions off-chain, meaning outside of the main Ethereum blockchain, and then bundle them all together before sending them back to the main network.
Okay.
This helps reduce congestion and fees.
Mm-hmm.
So transactions are faster and cheaper.
So it's like having a separate toll road that bypasses the traffic.
Exactly.
Okay. And the report mentioned Optimism and Arbitrum.
Yes.
Those are examples of these layer 2 networks.
Yeah, those are just two of many solutions being developed right now to try and solve those scalability challenges that Ethereum is facing. They're essentially creating a better, more user-friendly experience on top of the existing infrastructure.
Awesome. Now, Ethereum is a big player, obviously, but this report isn't just about, the ones everyone's heard of.
Right.
It also dives into some lesser-known layer 1 networks that I think are worth paying attention to.
Definitely. One that stands out is Hedera Hashgraph.
Okay.
And it uses a totally different technology than traditional blockchains.
Okay.
Called Hashgraph.
So it's not just a different name.
It's a whole different approach.
It's different technology.
It's super fast, very energy efficient, and really secure.
Okay, so why should I care about Hedera?
Well, for one thing, it's attracting some major players.
Okay.
Like Google, IBM, Boeing.
Really?
They're all part of Hedera's governing council, which gives us a lot of credibility.
Yeah.
Especially for enterprise solutions.
So this isn't just some little project. This is something that big corporations are looking at seriously.
Very seriously, yeah.
But what kind of enterprise solutions are we talking about? How does that translate to the real world?
Think about, supply chain management.
Okay.
Where you could track products from where they start to, all the way to the store shelves, total transparency. Or imagine using Hedera for carbon credit tokenization. Like creating a really secure, transparent system for tracking those carbon emissions and offsetting them.
Okay, so we're talking about using blockchain to solve actual problems.
World problems.
To make systems better, more transparent, more accountable.
Yeah.
And it sounds like Hedera is kind of positioning itself as a leader in this space.
They're doing a lot of interesting things.
Okay. So it's fast, it's efficient, it's good for the environment, and it's got the backing of major companies.
Yeah, it's a pretty compelling case.
That is a pretty compelling case, but we're just scratching the surface here. I mean, there are so many other layer 1 networks out there, each with its own strengths and its own focus.
Right, and we'll explore those in the next part of our deep dive.
Yeah.
But I think the key takeaway here is that we're seeing this diversification of the whole crypto ecosystem.
Okay.
Like a move away from just Bitcoin to a more, a world with many different things happening where different networks are serving different purposes.
Yeah, that's a great point, and I think it's something that our listeners should really keep in mind.
Yeah.
This isn't about picking, one winner and just putting all your eggs in that basket.
Yep.
It's about understanding the bigger picture, seeing how these different pieces fit together,
Right.
and then, identifying the opportunities that align with you, with your own goals.
You got it. We're moving into a world where knowledge is power. Understanding how this whole crypto landscape is evolving can give you a huge advantage, whether you're an investor or an entrepreneur or just someone who wants to be ahead of the curve.
I love that. So stay tuned for part 2, where we'll continue exploring these layer 1 networks and uncover even more insights that you can use in your own life.
Definitely. Welcome back to our deep dives into the future of crypto. So we just explored Bitcoin as that foundation, and then Ethereum with its expanding ecosystem. Let's continue our journey through some of these layer 1 networks.
Okay, so we talked about Ethereum trying to solve its scalability issues with things like sharding. But are there other networks out there that are already built for like speed and efficiency?
Absolutely. The report highlights Solana, which is known for its super fast transaction speeds. We're talking thousands of transactions per second, making it a strong contender for things like decentralized finance, gaming, NFTs, all those areas where speed is critical.
That's impressive. But I've also heard, some rumblings about Solana having some reliability issues in the past. Does the report address that at all?
Yeah, it does. Solana has experienced a few outages, which, is a valid concern. But the report suggests that they're really focused on improving the network stability and security moving forward. And even with those challenges, Solana is still super popular with developers and users who need that speed and those low transaction fees.
Okay, so speed is important, but what about security and reliability? I mean, those are pretty crucial too, especially if we're talking about, handling financial transactions or sensitive data.
You're absolutely right. And that's where Cardano comes in. This network really prides itself on its super rigorous scientific approach. Everything's peer reviewed. They really emphasize security and reliability above everything else.
Cardano, the brainy one. Okay, I like it. But what does that mean in practical terms? How does that translate into real-world applications?
Well, Cardano is working on building a really robust and secure infrastructure for tons of different applications.
Yeah.
Things like financial services, supply chain management, even voting systems.
Wait, voting systems? You're saying, we could use blockchain to vote in elections?
Yeah, it's definitely an area with huge potential. Blockchain tech could help create more secure, more transparent elections, make them tamper-proof, really addressing a lot of the concerns that people have with traditional voting systems.
Okay, now that is something I can get behind. But let's get back to Cardano for a sec. I've also heard that they're doing some really interesting work in emerging markets, like Africa.
That's right. Cardano's really focused on bringing blockchain tech to developing countries, focusing on financial inclusion and access to essential services. It's a great example of how we can use this technology to do good in the world, empowering individuals and communities.
That's refreshing to hear. So it's not just about, making money. It's also about having a positive impact. Okay, so with all these different layer 1 networks popping up, are they all just going to exist in their own little silos, or is there a way for them to connect and interact with each other?
That is a great question. And actually, the report highlights a network that's specifically designed to address that, POLKADOT. And its main focus is interoperability. So basically connecting different blockchains together.
Okay, so POLKADOT is like the bridge builder, connecting all these different islands of blockchain tech. But why? Why is that so important?
Well, imagine a future where you can move your assets, move data between different blockchains, no matter what technology they're using. It would unleash a whole new wave of innovation, right? Like different networks could specialize in what they do best and then work together to create this really interconnected ecosystem.
Okay, that's a fascinating vision. It's almost like, the internet itself, where different websites and platforms can all talk to each other. So POLKADOT is the glue that holds it all together.
Yeah, you could say that. They're creating this internet of blockchains.
Okay, cool. So we've got Solana for speed, we've got Cardano for security and reliability, and POLKADOT for interoperability. Anything else out there that we should be paying attention to?
Well, the report mentions a few others. There's Avalanche, which is pretty cool. It lets you create custom blockchains for your own specific needs. It's like a blockchain construction kit,
Oh, wow.
empowering developers to build their own decentralized applications.
So if you want to build your own little blockchain kingdom, Avalanche is the platform for you. That sounds pretty powerful, especially for, businesses or organizations that have really specific needs.
Exactly. And then there's Algorand, which is known as the green blockchain,
Yeah.
because it's really focused on sustainability. They use a consensus mechanism that uses very little energy, making it a really environmentally friendly option.
Okay, so if you're environmentally conscious and want to keep that carbon footprint low, Algorand is the way to go. It seems like there's a network out there for every need and preference these days.
That's what makes this space so exciting. We're seeing so much innovation.
Hmm.
Each network is finding its own niche, and they're all contributing to this overall growth of the blockchain ecosystem.
Yeah, it's a little overwhelming, to be honest,
I
but
bet.
like in a good way. I mean, it feels like we're just at the beginning of something huge here, and there's just so many possibilities. But I have to ask, with all this focus on the technology, are we forgetting about the human element? Like, how do people fit into this decentralized future?
That's a really important question. And actually, the report spends a lot of time talking about the potential impact of all of this on society, the economy, and even the political landscape.
Okay, so what's the outlook? Are we headed toward like, some utopian future where everyone benefits, or are there, some potential downsides that we need to be aware of?
Well, there's no easy answer. There are definitely opportunities and challenges. On one hand, blockchain tech has the potential to empower individuals, to create more transparent systems, and even to drive economic growth.
Yeah, that all sounds promising, but you said there were challenges too. What are some of those potential downsides that the report is talking about?
Well, one concern is the potential for increased volatility and market manipulation, especially because these markets are still pretty new and unregulated, and there's always the risk of, you know, illicit activities like money laundering if transactions are hard to track.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like any new technology, right?
Right.
There's always a potential for misuse. But I imagine that those are things that regulators and policymakers are already working on, right?
Absolutely. They're trying to stay ahead of it. And there are also, ethical considerations. For example, we need to make sure that this technology is accessible to everyone. No matter what their background is or how much money they have, we don't want to create a system that just makes existing inequalities even worse.
Yeah, that's a really crucial point. We need to make sure that this decentralized future is beneficial for everybody.
To everyone. Yeah.
Not just a select few. But I'm also curious about the political implications. How do governments fit into this whole decentralized world? I mean, are they threatened by it, or do they see it as an opportunity?
It's complicated. Some governments are embracing this technology and looking at how they can use it for public services. Others are a bit more cautious. They're worried about potentially losing control.
So some are leaning in and some are hesitant. Oh, okay, I can see how that would create some tension. But what about the US specifically? I mean, the report mentioned the incoming Trump administration. How might that impact the crypto industry?
Well, the report suggests that we might see a more favorable regulatory environment under Trump,
Okay.
which could lead to more innovation and investment.
Okay, so less red tape, more freedom to experiment.
Potentially, yeah. But it's important to remember that these are just predictions. How things actually play out, we'll have to wait and see. Politics are always changing, and the crypto industry is going to have to adapt.
Right. It's a good reminder that this tech doesn't exist in a vacuum.
Exactly.
It's influenced by all sorts of things, politics, the economy, social trends. But with all that said, it seems like the report is painting a cautiously optimistic picture of the future.
Yeah, I'd say that's fair. There are definitely challenges ahead. But the potential benefits they're too big to ignore. And that's why it's so important to stay informed, to understand what's happening, and to be a part of the conversation about how we want to shape this future.
Okay, so we've covered a ton of ground here. I mean, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, Cardano, Polkadot, it's a whole new world, and it can feel pretty overwhelming.
I understand. It's a lot to process. But that's what we're here for, to try to help you make sense of it all. And in the last part of our deep dive, we're going to bring it all back to you, the listener. We'll explore how all of these advances are already changing things up in all kinds of industries and what that means for, the future of work.
Okay, perfect. Because that's what people want to know.
Right.
How is this going to affect my job, my career?
Exactly. So stay tuned for that final installment of our deep dive where we'll connect all these, futuristic concepts with your everyday life.
Awesome.
And explore the opportunities that are starting to emerge in this really exciting landscape.
All right, welcome back for the final part of our crypto deep dive. So we've talked about Bitcoin. We've gone through this whole world of layer one networks. We even talked about the political side of things and, the societal impacts.
Right, now let's bring it all together and see how this crypto revolution is already changing things up in different industries.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, what everyone wants to know is how it's going to affect them, right?
Absolutely. This isn't just some abstract thing anymore.
Yeah.
It's about real changes happening in, how we work, the skills we need, the opportunities that are popping up.
Okay, so let's get specific. What are some of the industries where crypto is already having a real impact?
Well, finance is the obvious one, right? We're seeing decentralized finance, or DeFi, really gaining traction.
Yeah, DeFi. I've been hearing that a lot.
Yeah, it's all about building financial tools and services that work completely outside of traditional banking systems, using blockchain for things like lending, borrowing, trading.
That looks like cutting out the middleman.
Yeah, exactly. Making things more efficient, more accessible.
But if DeFi really takes off, wouldn't that totally disrupt the existing financial institutions? What would that even mean for, the average person?
It definitely challenges the status quo. For the average person, it could mean, access to financial services that they couldn't get before. Maybe lower fees, more control over their own money. But, there are risks too.
Right.
It's still early days.
It's like a double-edged sword. More freedom, more opportunity, but also, more responsibility.
Exactly.
You gotta be aware of those risks.
Yeah, do your research.
Okay. So it's not just finance, right?
No. The report also talks about the potential for blockchain in healthcare.
Oh, okay.
Especially for managing electronic health records.
Yeah.
Making them secure, making them efficient.
So instead of having your medical records all over the place, different doctors, different hospitals, it would all be on a blockchain, accessible to whoever needs it.
That's the idea.
Okay.
It could really streamline things, improve data security, and even give patients more control over their own information.
Wow. That would be a game changer. Imagine having your medical records available no matter where you are.
Right.
Especially in an emergency. That's huge. What about other industries? Where else are we seeing blockchain being used in the real world?
Supply chain management is another big one. Think about being able to track products from their origin all the way to the consumer. Ensuring transparency, authenticity, accountability every step of the way.
So you could track your coffee beans back to the farm they came from. Or check if that designer handbag is actually real.
Exactly. It could change the way we buy and sell things.
Yeah.
Give consumers more confidence.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I bet it would also be a huge benefit for businesses, too.
Of course, reducing fraud, streamlining their operation.
Yeah. Okay, so what about the creative industries? How's blockchain impacting, artists, musicians, writers?
Well, that's where NFTs come in.
Yes.
Non-fungible tokens. They let creators basically tokenize their work, creating these unique digital assets that can be bought, sold, collected.
So musicians and writers could sell their work directly to fans, without needing a record label or a publisher.
Exactly. Cut out the middleman, potentially earn more money.
Okay.
And it gives them more control over their work.
Yeah.
And opens up all kinds of new ways to connect with their audience.
This is all so incredible. It seems like blockchain isn't just about disrupting the old way of doing things, but it's about creating totally new ways, new industries, empowering people like never before.
And that leads us to a really important question. How do we get ready for this decentralized future? What skills are we going to need to thrive in this new world?
Okay, yeah. So let's say our listener is totally on board with all this and wants to get involved.
Yeah.
Where do they even begin? What should they be learning? What skills should they be developing?
Well, the report really stresses the importance of being adaptable, learning new things constantly, being open to new technologies.
Okay.
Obviously, technical skills like coding and blockchain development are going to be in huge demand.
So if you're a tech person, this is your moment.
Yeah, but what about the rest of us?
Right.
Who aren't, programmers? Are we going to be left behind in this tech-driven world?
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about.
Well, not necessarily. The report also talks about things like critical thinking, problem solving, communication, collaboration. Those skills are valuable in any industry. And as more businesses start adopting blockchain, they're going to need people who can bridge that gap between the tech side and, everyone else.
So if you can explain this stuff to, like, a normal person, you're going to be in high demand.
Exactly. Being able to communicate clearly, to really understand what this technology means, to apply it in creative ways to solve real problems, those are the skills that are going to matter.
It sounds like the future of work in this age of crypto is going to be pretty exciting, full of possibilities, at least for those who are willing to adapt.
Absolutely. And we've only just scratched the surface here.
Yeah.
So I really encourage you, the listener, to keep exploring, dive deeper into the things that interest you.
Yeah.
Whether it's DeFi, NFTs, supply chain, creative arts, there's a whole world out there waiting to be discovered.
This has been amazing. I mean, from the basics of Bitcoin to these complex layer one networks, we talked about politics, the future of work. I feel like we've covered so much. And I think the takeaway is pretty clear, right? This crypto revolution is happening. It's changing the world in huge ways.
The question is, are you ready to be a part of it?
That's a great question. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.